Well, hello. Hello and welcome to this, the 53rd episode of the Sockmatician podcast. My name is Nathan Taylor, also known as Sockmatician, right here on YouTube, also on Ravelry, Instagram and Twitter, and I have missed you. Those regular viewers of this podcast will know that I've been AWOL for the last... Well, it's been about a month since I last put out an episode because I have just come back from the most fantastic and amazing epic road trip across the States. I'm not going to go into too much about that right now because I want to just sort of welcome and say hello. So if you are a new watcher to this podcast, this one's going to be a little bit different from what you might normally expect from a Sockmatician podcast. I've got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of it knitting related. Now that surprised you, didn't it? You thought it was all going to be holiday snaps. Not so much. There's a couple of FOs waiting for you. There's a brand new whip on the needles. There's a lot of yarn. The stash enhancement. It's kind of gone through the roof a bit. There's also going to be a little bit of holiday chat, of course. So if you are a new watcher, this is not going to be quite as structured as I normally would, and I've had to let a couple of segments go for the sake of squishing it all in, because believe me, I've got enough stuff. I could talk about this for 4 hours and nobody wants that. If you are not a new watcher, if you are a returning viewer, hi, nice to see you. Thank you for spending time with me. It's lovely to have you here in my lovely living room, which is in North London, here in the UK. So where to begin? I got home. This is now Friday. It's Friday early evening, about 10 to 6. So I've got all the lights on just in case we start to lose the light outside. And I got home on Tuesday evening. So it's been a few days, and I've actually, although I've wanted to get this podcast episode out and ready to go, I've been putting it off. Bad podcaster. Don't tell them that. The reason I've been putting it off is because I've been a bit afraid of it. There's so much to talk about, and I haven't wanted to miss anything out, and I haven't wanted to go into too much detail and just be boring, and then we did this, and then we did that. So I think I'm just going to have to plough in. And I'm not going to start with the roundup. It's too much to tell you. I'm going to start with the community side of this podcast. Now, I keep saying this, so many of you will know this, that the reason I started this podcast, well, the two reasons really. I wanted a shop window for my design stuff, and I wanted to have a way of people to find me, but I also wanted, and this was most important, I wanted a way of reaching out, engaging with people that I wouldn't otherwise get the chance to meet living here in North London, when I know there are fantastic knitters all around the world. Well, oh my goodness, that second reason seems to have worked and then some. I have been utterly bowled over by the numbers of people that I've met on our road trip. We drove from New York to San Francisco. We didn't. We drove from San Francisco to New York. I don't know where that came from. We deliberately didn't drive from New York to San Francisco because we wanted the shorter flight at the end of the journey when we were tired. It's very well planned. So, and I've met various people. It's the first time really that I've been to the US since this podcast has carved out the place in my heart and in other people's hearts, it seems, that it has done. And so it's my first opportunity to go over and meet people that I've got to know via online interactions from the States, or people I haven't yet got to meet, but do now. Have now. And it's been... That's the roundup. It's the community aspect of it. What's been so lovely is meeting these people who giving up their time to come and say hello, giving up their resources and energy and creativity, giving me little presents and things which I will show you all later. And oh my goodness, I can't wait to get stuck in. But let's go back to our normal kind of community section and jump straight in with the podcast questions. It goes back a few days now because I've been out of town for a while, and this is interesting because this is one that starts off about being out of sync. This is Sweet Pea 16. who is Ava from Luxembourg. Now, Ava says, "Hi, well, my podcast question is now out of sync, so to speak. I was going to ask if it was just the lighting, or if your beard had become quite grey over the last few weeks." And it also looked like the left-hand side of your moustache was greyer than the right-hand side. Oh my goodness, Ava, you are brilliant. And then you went and shaved it all off, and now I don't recognise you anymore. Have a fabulous trip, she says, before we left, or as we left. I'm 43, Ava. I've earned every single one of these grey hairs, and I'm very proud of them. I will never dye that, unless it's for a theatre or television job where I'm required to have dark hair. I will never dye this or what's coming here. I'll shave it off, but there's plenty of silver going on in that, and I don't mind it at all. I think possibly you might be right. I don't know whether it happened a lot in the last couple of weeks, but yeah, there's definitely some grey emerging, and it is patchy and it is a little bit uneven, so it's quite possible that one side of my moustache was a little greyer than the other. So let me get a little bit closer to the camera. Yeah, do you mean this side? When you say left side, that's my left side, right? So I think you're probably right. Definitely a bit of silvering going on there. And here's my badger stripes that work their way across. I've got 4 very distinct grey silver spots on my chin, which became quite long stripes. I could actually sort of like comb my fingers into them. They looked very, very separate. Yeah, it's getting old, knocking on a bit. So, the next question is from H. Granger. Are you Hermione Granger? H. Granger, 1974, year of my birth as well. Let me just dig into this a little while. I don't think you are you? Can't possibly. It doesn't say your actual name. I'm going to assume that I am actually talking to Hermione Granger from Harry Potter, and that makes me very happy. And I've just lost the place. That's annoying. Here we are. Hi Nathan, just watching your latest podcast, and you mentioned you go to many yarn shows. I go to as many as I possibly can. And I just wondered if you have been to Wonderwool Wales, and if not, if you might do in the future. I have not, and I might. I'm going to try and rattle through this. Without being rude, yeah, I'm aware of it. I've never made it over there yet, and I would dearly, dearly love to go. So, who knows? I might be popping up there very soon. Hello, says Ellie Sheck. And Ellie Sheck says, hello Nathan, I would like to say I thoroughly enjoy watching and listening to your podcast. Well, thank you very much. It seems to me that whenever I end up in a rut whilst at work during the night, do you work shift patterns? I come home to find a new episode has been uploaded. My wish is your wish is my command. The other way around is weird. Be assured it doesn't happen all the time. However, I do have a question for you. Do you ever keep any of the tags/labels from the yarn that you have knitted with already? And she says, I hope to see you around Perth Festival of Yarn. Well, yes, see you in a couple of weeks. I do. I endeavour to. I don't do it sort of as fanatically as I otherwise might, so I don't necessarily have them all. I've got, it's actually a Notions pouch that Kay Jones from the Bakery Bears gave to me a little while back. It's only tiny, but it's just the right size. It's like a little, it's almost like a little pencil case shape, and it's good for putting ball bands and things in. It's a bit stuffed, so I've now got that inside a slightly bigger Notions pouch, and I'm putting more in. I could, of course, have taken the original ones out, but that's where they live. So yeah, I do, and it's usually I don't tend to need to keep them for posterity or anything like that. But particularly if I'm doing some design work and I'm knitting something that I'm going to want to refer back to that ball band and find out yardage and stuff like that. I know that's all stuff I can find out online, but it's easy if I just when I come to writing up the pattern, if I can then just pick out the ball band and copy off the information. Once that's done, I have no reason to keep it, so I'll let them go eventually. And then. So I'm scrolling through some chatter. Excuse me, bear with me a second. Lovely. Blah blah blah. Also, whole pages. Blah blah blah. Loving it. A couple of people. I'm not going to mention all by name. So several people have talked about talking about the bind off for toe-up socks and saying I've never really found one I'm 100% happy with, and all asking me if I've tried Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off. I have, yeah. I didn't like it. It's brilliant, it's really, I'm sure it's very, very useful in certain circumstances. For me, it flares too much. I know that there is the modified bind off where you do the yarn over every other stitch. I haven't tried that. I think that sounds like it makes perfect sense. But I wonder if that would then make it any more or less stretchy than the bind off I'm already using. Don't get me wrong. I know that different people have different shaped calves. And shall we say some calves flare more than others. And so a really, really stretchy bind off would probably be very, very useful for people whose calves get a little bit thicker. My calves tend to stay quite slender until quite a long way up my leg. And then they sort of bunch up just under the knee. So for me, I never need to do any calf shaping on my socks, or even quite long socks. There's enough stretch in the fabric of the material to go around, so I don't want a particularly loose bind off. But that's just me. Maybe I'm the one who's a strange shape and everyone else is normal. Something to ponder. You never sort of assume that you're the odd one. You always assume it's someone else. So, moving on from that. Okay, so just one more row too. Says, hi Nathan, I hope you're having a wonderful time so far on your holiday. Yes, I was. Your route will take you through some states where they use the word y'all, as in Y''ALL. I grew up in Virginia and still use the word even though I live up north now. I'm wondering from a grammar perspective, what you think of this way to express something which is sorely lacking in the English language, that is, a way to express you, plural. Well, that's very interesting. Because of course, it's not a word. It's a contraction of two words. You got me started. Don't blame me for being a pedant. It's two words. It's contracted. It's like don't. I wouldn't consider don't to be a single word on its own. I guess it classes as one, but it's definitely you all. And of course, it's not, in that context, it's not only solely found in that area of the US. I would say you all know that I am a grammar pedant. It's just that with sort of lazier speech patterns, the you all has become y'all. So I have absolutely no problem with it from a grammar perspective. I think it makes perfect sense. It does the same job that we do when we say you all. But as far as local flavour and specific character of certain areas, I think it has a very, very definite charm. And I'm a big fan. That's it. It's really weird looking at this and seeing my teeth. I haven't seen my teeth on screen for years. In case you don't know, I've just shaved off a big beard. It's coming back. I missed it so much. One shave, the one you all saw on the episode last time. And I instantly regretted it, I have to say. It's caused a bit of a scandal. Most people are saying, oh, you look so much younger. I don't necessarily see that as a good thing. I think it's true. I do think I look younger without the beard. I don't really like that necessarily. So I know that it's meant as a compliment and I'll take it like that, but for me that wasn't the issue. It's really kind of weird when some people think that they have, this is now the time that they can make disparaging remarks about it. It didn't happen by accident, you know. I put it there for a reason. It took a long time, a lot of commitment into growing that beard. So clearly I liked it. Just putting that out there. And I miss it. Yeah, some people have agreed with me. Dietrich, Leslie, you know who you are. And I know people were grieving its loss. So fear not, it's coming back. Other people seem to have been delighted to see the back of it, including most of my family. But you know what? They're not the people I grew it for. No one else. Here comes a question from Smine, who is, I should know this, a complete... Oh, Steph, of course. I'm so sorry, Steph. Who says, if I can get back to the page, hi Nathan, a question for you from currently rainy New Zealand. First, some brief background. I'm a bit weird in that I only ever wear store-bought cotton or bamboo socks all year round. I really don't like how wool feels on my feet, each to their own. And I have some peep toe boots which I've previously worn without socks, but don't find it terribly comfortable to wear them that way. Therefore, I am in need of some toeless socks. I've looked to buy ready-made ones, but can't find a suitable style for ankle boots. So I might have to break my never made a sock in over 40 years of knitting streak. That's not a streak, that's a way of life. But they would have to be cotton for me to want to wear them, especially over summer. I know cotton is not naturally elastic, so if I used a pattern written for wool, would I need to alter it, do you think, or could I rely on negative ease? I'm not your man, I'm afraid. So I wondered, have you ever considered making cotton socks? And if you wouldn't, why not? Looking forward to your thoughts on this. Surely GB gets warm enough in summer that wool socks are just too much? Well, no, not very often. Not really. Or do you simply switch to sports sandals, flip-flops, or boat shoes? She goes on to say, sorry if you're cringing, I've never actually seen what your taste in summer footwear might be. Well, it doesn't include any of the aforementioned items. Oh, I can see this is just going to be a giggly one. You have to put up with me today. My head's all over the place, so I think I'm a bit jet-lagged. So here's the thing. I've never knitted with cotton. I've never worked with it in any capacity, let alone for socks. I'm not sure I would particularly enjoy the feel of cotton. The lack of give might come across as a bit hard, particularly because we do know that feet sweat. And when cotton gets a bit damp, it's just going to compact. I got I made some socks out of some yarn, which I think it was either 100% bamboo or has quite a high bamboo content. And I don't know if yours are like this, Steph, but you know when you put bamboo in water, it goes like bamboo fabric, it goes like cardboard, it stiffens up. And the first time I did it, I watched it, so I was panicking. I was like, oh my goodness. Thinking that was it. As they dry, it softens up beautifully. But actually, throughout the day, when your feet get a bit moist, I said it. When your feet get a bit moist, the same thing can happen, and the bamboo in the socks can get a bit hard. So I'm wondering if the same might be true of cotton, not in quite the same degree, but just because of that lack of give. So I don't think, for me, I would find them very suitable. There may be. Feel free, Steph, to open this up to the general chatter thread or open a thread on the post, because there are bound to be people in my Ravelry group, if not elsewhere on Ravelry, who know the answers more thoroughly from their own personal experience. I'm not hugely interested in working with cotton. I haven't done enough with wool yet. I'm not tired of it. There's so many fibres out there. I'll get around to them all one day. Who knows when? Moving on. Okay. Winnie Wombat says, hi Nathan. You refer to your stash quite often in the podcast episodes. It's getting bigger. Many yarnaholics are quite proud of their stash and have it on display. What does your stash look like? How is your stash stored? Well, mine is in big plastic tubs, and they're all sealed in individual plastic bags when I get around to doing it, because of moths. They're not out on display because I live in an old house, and the temptation for them little critters to come in, I think, would be too much if I left expensive food and banquets lying around for them. So fearing that, it's all tucked away. And I do have to be really careful how I store my knitwear as well, and just check all the time to make sure that that nothing's getting in. So that's why at the moment I have 3 big cuboid plastic tubs, IKEA things, and I might need a 4th. That kind of depresses me really, because I don't want to build up a stash of stuff that I'm never going to get around to using. I want to have stuff that I want to use, and of course when I get it, I always want to use it. I'm not knitting very quickly at the moment. Note to self, knit quicker. Oh, terrible grammar! Knit more quickly. That's better. Knit is a verb. Requires an adverb to describe it. Yes, it does, not an adjective. That's today's grammar rant. It's one of the sections dropped, but there it is, snuck it in. So, thank you for that. And I have one more page to check through. I don't know if there are any questions on it, whether it is just chat. Well, Dragon Rose says, how's your holiday vacation? Solar eclipse, she says. So I'm not going to do that here. I'll tell you about that in a sec. And then it's me answering things, and there we go, that's it. So, whew, moving on. So, into the roundup. I genuinely don't know where to start, because I don't think it would serve me necessarily well just to think, well, let's go chronologically from day one. I can't do that. I will try and put things into the context as we go. We have had, the 4 of us on the trip, me and Ben, my husband, and our 2 friends, Sam and his boyfriend, Matt. And we've had the most incredible time. There won't be enough words, and believe me, I know how to use a lot of words. Why use one when 20 will do? There won't be enough words that I could ever use that would describe the enormity of what we've experienced. It's been amazing. We were away for 3 weeks. 3 weeks and a day, I think it worked out to be. And we flew out to San Francisco back on the 9th of August, and we stayed 4 nights there. And that was, I mean, we've squished about 20 holidays into one. The kind of holidays that people would do as their main holiday, and just, I've done it myself, let's go to San Francisco. Plenty to do there. The joy for Ben and for me was the fact that Sam and Matt, neither one of them had ever been to the US before. So when we were in places that we knew, like San Francisco and New York, we were able to share our favourite bits with them and enjoy them again for a second time on our own merits, but also through the eyes of a newcomer. Lovely, really, really liked that. So we did all the lovely things in San Francisco that we wanted to do. We spent a lot of time around the Castro, which is the gay area. It's so steeped in the gay liberation movement history, and the Harvey Milk's story. He was dubbed the mayor of Castro Street because of his work there, and he had a shop, a camera shop on Castro Street. That whole area is so vibrant and so alive, and it houses the Castro Theatre as well, which is a cinema. And we went to see one of the films there, because I don't know if you know this, but at the beginning of every film, this huge organ rises up from the pit in front of the stage. This guy plays it for about 20 minutes and then stands up, takes a bow as he's descending down. It's just lovely. And the film we went to see happened to be my old stomping ground, Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Neither Sam nor Matt had seen the film before. Obviously I have. And I was in the stage show. And Ben has seen it too with me, but it was a film we wanted to see again. It was lovely. So we did that, and we spent time at the Golden Gate Park, which is absolutely huge. We went to the beginning of the day, we took a cab over there to the Japanese Botanical Gardens. Ben and I didn't do that last time because felt a bit sneaky. We were trying to do everything on a bit of a budget. Got a frog in my throat, hang on. Trying to do everything on a bit of a budget because it was a big holiday, and it cost a few pennies. So we cut in corners where we could. Now, there's a charge to get into the Japanese Botanical Gardens, except unless you get there first thing in the morning. I forget, before a certain time, either before 9 or before 10, I forget which. And you go for free. And we did that. And it was charming and delightful and lovely. So we did that, and wandering through other parts as well. And we went to the National AIDS Monument. It's devastating. It really is. Really bringing home the devastation that the gay population, in particular in San Francisco, faced in the 80s and 90s. And it's harrowing. It really is. But it's a beautiful spot. It's been done really, really very, very well, and it's just tranquil and peaceful and sad and hopeful, and all of those things. Very moving. I really enjoyed that. And then we went off to Golden Gate Bridge and walked down the Haight, and sort of the different areas of San Francisco seem to have different decades attached to them. Castro Street is very firmly fixed in the 70s, and Haight-Ashbury feels like it's still in like the summer of love. It's still 1967, which is celebrating its 50th anniversary, and there's posters for that all over San Fran at the moment. I loved it. I really loved it, and I took the chance to set up a little meet and greet at Imaginit, obviously, in San Francisco, which is on, I think it's 16th Street, just off Castro Street anyway, not far away from the hub. And I'd put out on Instagram that I was going to be there, and I'd popped in and spoken to the girls in the shop the day before and checked it was okay for us to just sit down and chat, not knowing if anyone would turn up. And a few people did, which was really lovely. So they of course come on in, and we went in. Ben and I went in, and there was one person there waiting. Hello, Lexi. Hi. And we got chatting, and then more people arrived. And every other person who walked through that door, obviously Lexi was there before me, but everyone who followed after me and joined us was male. I couldn't believe it. I mean, yes, I'm just off the Castro Street. Not wanting to stereotype my own kind, of course, but it was really unusual to be around so many male knitters. And that's not to budge you, Lexi, out of the group in any way, shape or form. It was delightful talking to you, and I'm so glad you were there. Another experience for me was being among so many male knitters. I finally got to meet someone I've been happily corresponding with for a couple of years, and that's Bill Jones. Bill, you are an absolute treat and a delight, and one of the most interesting men. Bill worked as a makeup designer and at the opera in San Francisco, and he's worked making puppets and in television and doing stuff. And such a fascinating life, so interesting, and it was so lovely to finally get a chance to meet you in person. Thank you so much for coming along. I'm really, really glad you came. And then there was Tom. Now, Tom is very tall. Tom, you're very tall, and you have a massive beard, and I was so jealous having just shaved mine off as Tom walked in the door. Big Father Christmas beard halfway down his chest. Oh, I loved it. I was like, now I really regret it. And there was Lakeegan, who set up the Facebook group for and the website, and set up the male knitting group in San Francisco, who meet up at various places around the city at various points of the month and do lots of lovely socialising and charitable things. And it's fascinating to me that there is such a community of male knitters. A lot of people have said to me, well, is there nothing like that in the UK? And this doesn't seem to be. Not anything specifically aimed at male knitters. Now, I have a funny relationship with that kind of thing. It's all positive. I'm delighted that they exist. I feel a little bit bad that it would therefore become exclusive to female knitters, and that doesn't sit very comfortably with me. So I think in the UK, where there are far fewer male knitters, it seems, it could be difficult to set that up and exclude other people. I don't know. I think knitting communities are so coming together. It's a different experience being around other guys, and for me it was a novel one, so I was thoroughly enjoying all of that. And there were loads of other people as well. Hello to all of you. Too many to mention. The next day, which was the day before we left, I believe, the male knitting group were having a meetup, a brunch meetup. This was the Saturday. So yeah, it was the day before we left. This was a brunch meetup at a local eatery, and we sat outside in the garden, and it was quite a few of the usual suspects that I'd met at the shop the day before, and some other people as well, which was all very, very lovely, and that was all thoroughly enjoyable. While we were there, most people had gone and moved on to do other things, and the last few people who were left there were me and Ben and Bill. And it was Ben that noticed that once all the other male knitters had gone, a guy had walked in, sat somewhere else in the garden, and taken out his knitting. Ah, we thought, an actual knitter in the wild, and a boy to boot. So, of course, we went over to say hello, and Bill was saying, "Are you aware of the San Francisco male knitting group?" He's like, "No, I just do it." He was knitting a hat, and so we had a little chat, and they exchanged details, and I think his name is John. He's going to join them, which is fabulous. If you're watching, John, hello. I don't know even if you know about this podcast, but hello if you do. And John went back down to finishing off the crown of his hat, and we sat down and carried on chatting. And then he came over and joined us. He'd just finished it. He just cast it off, and I was looking at it, and I said, "That's really, really nice." It was a very plain grey hat with a ribbed cuff, really nice looking shape, and lovely sort of thick fuzzy yarn. And so I was being complimentary about it. And he said, "Well, you can have it if you like." I said, "Really? But you've just finished it." He went, "Yeah, what's knitting for if not to give away?" And I thought, what a beautiful sentiment, and instantly felt incredibly guilty and selfish because I rarely give my knitting away. But here's the hat that John made and gave to me. Forgive me, I'm not going to put it on because I've actually spiked my hair up today and I quite like that. I don't want to squish it down. But it's really lovely, and it's got a sort of a standard spirally closure there. It's got mohair content in it. It's really, really fuzzy and fluffy, but there's a dense, I don't know what the yarn is, it's really dense. He's done a lovely job and it's fab, and I wore it for the rest of that day because, you may not know this, San Francisco is pretty chilly. Mark Twain apparently once said, "The coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco." It's right, it's boggy, it's cold, it's misty, it's chilly. So we were in like long trousers and long sleeves. It's California. You think California in August is going to be hugely hot? No. Needless to say, an hour outside San Francisco city, baking hot sunshine, and the hat went in the suitcase for the rest of the trip. Didn't need it again. But I shall thoroughly look forward to wearing that when the weather starts to get a bit chillier over here. And if you are watching, John, thank you so much. It was so genuinely and generously given. He wasn't looking for anything. He had no reason to sort of try and butter anyone up. And it was Bill that he was more likely to see again. And he's like, "No, have it if you like." Lovely, thank you. So, I mean, listen, here's the thing. I'm not doing the whole holiday roundup here. I'm just doing the nitty stuff. So I have taken quite a lot of video footage and taken a fair few pictures, but mostly video footage, and I've kind of been vid-blogging the whole thing. It's going to be a bit of a job putting it all together, so it's not going to feature in this podcast episode. I'm going to get this one out as soon as I can, because I want to touch base with you all before you forget who I am. But over the next few days, I'm hoping to edit all of that together into a separate film, which will just be about the road trip. So if you're not interested, and you're only here for the knitting, you don't have to worry. If you are interested, don't worry that you'll miss out. It will all be available on YouTube. Not as a podcast episode, but on my channel. It'll be the next thing I upload. So to whiz you through then until the next nitty spot, we went to Yosemite. Yosemite Falls, the tallest falls in the US, the 5th tallest in the world. So beautiful I cried. From there we went to Death Valley, which is the hottest place on the planet. And in the one day, we drove from Yosemite to Death Valley, and in Yosemite we were at an elevation of nearly 10,000 feet above sea level, and there was snow on the ground, and I threw a snowball at my husband. And then we drove down to 1,000 feet below sea level, 11,000 feet lower, and went to bed in temperatures of 109 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 43 degrees centigrade. In the same day, we haven't got a plane, we haven't gone anywhere. Amazing. Death Valley was weird and arid and hot like a furnace, and I felt I'd moved to Mars. The terrain is so bizarre. Scorched, dry, red desert. Then from there we went to the Grand Canyon, and we saw sunset over the Grand Canyon, and we got up at 1:00 the next morning to be there before dawn so we could watch sunrise over the Grand Canyon. Wow, that's quite special. I cried. That was the third time I cried on the trip. So National Hayes Memorial, and then Yosemite, and then the Grand Canyon. And then from the Grand Canyon we went to Monument Valley. I mean, the west of the US has got like special thing after special thing after special thing. It's ridiculous. We were marvelling all the time at how quickly the terrain changed. There'll be a mountain range ahead of you, and you'll drive towards it, and you'll get through it, and then you'll see another mountain range. It's entirely different, and the mountains are made of an entirely different coloured stone: red, pink, orange, yellow, cream, white, grey, brown. I am not kidding. I have seen mountain ranges in all of those colours, and that's not to mention the green ones, which have got the trees on them, and the sort of other different colours of vegetation, because at the different elevations there's different things growing. I mean, every mile was a feast for the eyes, and I was literally trying like this. Look at that, look at the colour of that. Just glorious and beautiful. I can honestly say I never once got bored. I did all the driving. Sam and Matt don't drive at all, and Ben was happy not to, and I was quite happy to do it. We had our allocated places in the car. I say allocated by the fact that that's where we all sat when we first got in. They were set in stone. And I kind of like being able to say, yeah, I did all the driving. I drove all the way. I drove across 17 states and Washington DC, which is not a state, but it's an 18th territory, 4 time zones, and 3,894 miles in the car from San Francisco to Philadelphia, which is where we had to drop it off, in 12 days. Yeah, we did all that. So then after Monument Valley, which is gloriously beautiful, we were there at sunset, and it's in driving through Native American reservations and seeing all the poverty as well, seeing the poverty that people live in, these tiny little rundown shacks just perched on the hillside in the middle of nowhere, no real towns or anything. It's quite chilling, really. And then Monument Valley itself is in a native reservation in Utah. We only popped into Utah just to go there. We weren't really doing Utah, but it was kind of like that. So we went from California into Nevada, into Arizona, into Utah, back into Arizona, and then I'm going to get this wrong now, I've already forgotten, from Arizona into New Mexico into Texas, Oklahoma, Kentucky, Illinois, back into Kentucky, Tennessee, and from Tennessee through, I'm forgetting, but up to Virginia, and I think then we went into Maryland and Delaware to get to Washington DC, and then into Pennsylvania, and then in New Jersey, and into New York. I think that's all of them. Don't write in. It doesn't matter. I probably got that wrong. But it's astonishing. And so from there we went to Santa Fe in New Mexico. And from Santa Fe we then started a bit of Route 66, which we weren't actually planning to do. Ben, there was going to be 2 days where we needed to get from Santa Fe to our next real destination, which was Makanda in southern Illinois, about which more in a moment. And it's quite a long way, and 2 convenient stop-off points were Amarillo and Tulsa. Neither place had ever held any great interest for us, and the road didn't seem to interstate all the way. So we thought, well, they're going to be our driving days. But then we were in a bookshop in Santa Fe the night before setting off, and it looked like suddenly that's Interstate 40, and Ben said, hang on, isn't 40 the old Route 66? And it is. So he got a book from that bookshop that we happened to be in about historic Route 66, and we just looked up some of the things that we could do should we wish to along the way. So we did loads of really interesting things. Tinkertown, which is a fabulous roadside attraction, models and puppets and quirky stuff and carnival stuff, and a boat in a shipyard and that's travelled all around the world, and walls made of bottles of glass, crazy floors paved with tiled with American number plates from cars from all over the place. Quirky, fabulous. The Blue Whale, a crazy little swimming platform thing, a water tower that's leaning at a funny angle, Cadillac Ranch, which is 9 Cadillacs ranging from the 50s to the 70s, upended with their noses in a cornfield. It's random stuff, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. So we actually had 2 very interesting, fun days going through Amarillo and Tulsa. Then, I said I wasn't doing this, but this is really the briefest I can be about it. Then we got to southern Illinois. Now, we have seen some amazing things on our trip. The whole of the west of the country was awe-inspiringly magnificent and beautiful. And I don't want to take away anything from any of those places, but nothing. And I mean nothing on Earth, and possibly nothing in our universe, will ever eclipse the Eclipse. '21st of August. 20th. I can't remember, the Monday. A total eclipse of the sun, a solar eclipse happened. And it swept across the US. And it went through Nashville, and it went through Oregon, and I don't want to say, it went to various places, big places. But it also went through a little town called Makanda in southern Illinois, just on the border with Kentucky. No one's ever really heard of Makanda before. No reason why they should. It's tiny. But it is the location of the point of greatest duration of totality. Now, bearing in mind that the 4 of us have been planning this trip for about 2.5 years, exclusively around the eclipse, bearing in mind that we'd flown from the UK halfway across the world and driven by that point halfway across the United States to be there at that point, do you know what? I wanted those extra seconds. I thought that would make that location more special than anywhere else on the path. And oddly, just 3 hours drive down the road in Nashville, where they also had totality, they had 1 minute 55, I think. We had 2 minutes 46 of totality, and that made a difference. If you've never experienced a total eclipse before, there is nothing like it. We knew it was going to be good, we knew it was going to be amazing, we knew it was something we wanted to do, that's why we planned the trip. I don't think any of us were prepared for quite how jaw-droppingly amazing it is. It is beyond any words I can ever come up with. Things I didn't expect. You see stars. It gets dark enough to see stars. It's happened at like 2 in the afternoon. Not only do you see stars, you hear crickets. As soon as it gets dark, the crickets all start chirping. They think it's nighttime. Amazing. You get a 360-degree sunset. Sunsets only ever happen on one side of the sky, right? We happened to be, the spot was so beautiful. We're about 5 miles southeast of Makanda, because actually that's nearest to the point. And on the shore of a beautiful lake called Little Grassy Lake. It's a beautiful, beautiful lake. So we had the horizon in front of us, a forest of trees behind us, but not above us, so we could see over the horizon that way. And when you go into totality, the whole horizon, all the way around you, turns orange. That was amazing and unexpected. What I didn't really fully appreciate was the beauty of the eclipse itself. I did beforehand, I do now. So I don't know if you know anything about them, but so the moon starts passing across in front of the face of the sun. And it takes about an hour and 20 minutes, hour and 30 minutes to go from there, when it's just taking its first little nibble, to get to fully covering it. True totality. And then that totality only lasts 2 minutes 46 seconds maximum where we were. And then it takes another sort of hour and 20 minutes to get off to the other side. And while the partial phase is going on, of course we had our glasses. There were loads of people there, about 200 people, all in their cars, all parked up, getting their best spot. And And we all chatted. It was a lovely, lovely atmosphere. Everyone was there for one reason. We were all getting a bit geeky about it, sharing knowledge of what do you know about it, what do you know about the science. And then as it starts to go across, we had glasses, you can look up and see it. And it's really interesting to see, oh, the sun's not round anymore, oh, it's got a little bite taken out of it, oh, it looks like the Apple logo, all that kind of stuff. And because the sun is so bright and so powerful, and boy, it was hot that day, it takes a long time. The moon has to cross over quite a lot of it before you notice any difference at all. It's really imperceptible, and it's still really bright and really hot. And then way after it's covered half of the area of the disk of the sun, you suddenly start to think there's something weird about the light. It's gone a bit weird, and I can't really describe it. I've never seen anything like it before. It's not, as a lot of people think, like a cloud has passed over the sun. When a cloud passes over the sun, all the shadows go away. No, that doesn't happen. You're still in shadow. There's nothing between the visible part of the sun and you, and it's strong enough that it's still casting bright, strong shadows, and it feels bright. It gets a little bit cooler, and you start thinking, oh, I don't feel like I'm burning. And yet it's so gradual, but the light just looks a bit grey. It's like bright sunlight turned down a bit. It's weird. So that's happening. It's happening so gradually. I assumed that it would gradually keep going until it got as dark as it was going to get, and then it would get lighter again. No, how wrong could I be? It gets to a certain point, and just at the moment where the moon blots out the sun entirely, it gets dark like someone switched the lights off. Broad, slightly grey, admittedly, but broad, bright sunlight, and then bang, darkness. I'm getting really excited and thrilled even telling you about it. It was so magnificent, and when it happened, it was so spontaneous. The whole crowd, everywhere we were, we erupted, shouting, cheering, laughing hysterically, applauding. Well done, sun. Well done, moon. It was just, I've never witnessed anything like it. Now I've took video footage of the whole thing, and I'm not going to show it here. I'm not going to give that away. It is all going to be on the video footage. I've got the whole thing there, from the noise of the people applauding, and then I sort of swing the camera around, and you can see me, and I'm like, I'm a mess. I can't. It is so amazingly beautiful. So you get the diamond ring, which is when the last little bit of the sun is still peeking out from the edge of the moon, and then that's so beautiful. That's the moment you can take your glasses off. We think of the sun as being orange or yellow. When it's in totality, the corona around the black disk of the moon is white. The whitest white. It's like an angel spontaneously combusted. It's white. So beautiful. I couldn't take my eyes off it, and it's making me really excited now, just putting myself back in that memory. And you get that, and you get the sunset and the crickets and the stars. It's like, wow. And then you get a second diamond ring as the moon starts to disappear. They call it the diamond ring because it's like a big bright flare, and you see the corona so it looks like the circle of a ring with a diamond on one side of it. It's so beautiful. But it's also sad, because when it happens for the second time, that's it. Totality is over, glasses back on, otherwise you'll die. You won't die, you'll hurt your eyes. It was breathtakingly amazing. And for all of you who weren't on the path of totality, I'm so sorry you didn't experience it. And I know there are people who are going to hate, please don't hate me for saying this, there are going to be people who were like, we had 95% totality, it was amazing. It's like, sorry. Unless you experienced totality, you didn't have the same experience. And I don't mean that to sound patronising at all, it's just different. That's what we had all the way through partial phase. Great. Right up until like 99%, it's still broad sunlight, it's still bright. It's only when you are in the path of totality and the light plummets. Oh, and when you get the second diamond ring, on they come again. 3 seconds, bright sunlight again. Amazing. So unless you've experienced that, you'll just never know what it's like. And I don't want to patronise people, but I will just look at them smugly and say, no, that's not an eclipse. so worth it. It was so worth it and so far exceeded all of our expectations. It was amazing. Listen, I'm talking too much. 50 minutes and I haven't even got onto any knitting stuff. So from there, we went to Nashville to see my friend Dan, and we spent time going out to music bars there. It was lovely. And then we swung up to Washington, D.C., where we spent 2 days. And I decided last minute I would have a quick look and see what yarn shops there were in D.C., because we had a bit of time. And I found Looped Yarn Works, which is DC's only yarn store. There are others in the surrounding area, but actually in Washington DC itself, it's the only one. And I went there, and I put it out literally the night before, not thinking anybody would have any time to make plans to come see me, but 3 people did. And Sammy Susie, hi, Sammy Susie, and her daughter Sydney, and her friend Tammy. Hello to all 3 of you. I'm so glad you were there. It was such a joy to meet you. Genuinely such a joy. Sammy had she'd driven 3 hours? No, maybe not that far. Hour and a half, 3 hours round trip from outside the city to knowing that I was going to be there, which was really sweet. And Sammy, you're enthusiastic and you're cheerful and you're just a delight to be around. And it was really lovely to meet you. I bought some stuff. I had some stuff given to me. I'll do that in Stash Enhancement. I'm getting onto that, I promise. Moving on from that, we had a lovely couple of hours chat, the 3 of us. And then we drove basically from DC to Philly, dropped off the car and drove into New York, where I had another nitty meaty talked too long already. Another nitty meet. This was at Nitty City, so it really was a Nitty City nitty meet in a city where I like to nitty. New York City. It's very pretty. I'm not very witty. I wish I were. Oh dear. Well, listen, what do you expect? You know to expect no better from me. So I had contacted the magnificent Pearl Chin, who works at Nitty City, and we'd met before. I didn't expect her to remember. I'm not sure whether she did. I doubt it. I met a couple of years ago when I was there last time, and I bought some nice things from her. If you want to check back, you'll see it on the podcast. I'm sure I talked about it. And I just said, listen, I'm coming. Is it okay if I put out on Instagram that I'm going to be there? And if anyone wants to pop along, because I know of quite a lot of knitters who follow this podcast that live in NYC. So I thought there was a fair chance a few people might be able to pop in. So she jumped on it and immediately said, can we use some of your photos from Instagram for social media? I was like, yeah, by all means, publicise it if you like. And there were loads of people. It was quite overwhelming. Really lovely. I just won't be able to name everybody, but there was Carolyn and Amy and Emily and it's just so many people. It was a bit of a blur, to be honest. And I also met, Sam. Sam, you remember from the last episode where I announced the winners of the sock along. Well, Sam was the person who knitted the Twisted Soul socks, crazy fool, as his first ever pair of socks, crazy fool. And he brought them in to show me. Yes! It was so exciting to see them. He's done a magnificent job. I love them, really loved them. There was another lady whose name I'm afraid escapes me, I'm sorry, but you'd also brought your solo Twisted Soul sock, and other one still pending, which was a beautiful colours chosen. And Carolyn was working her way through the Remember cowl. It was lovely to see people enjoying the stuff that I've put out there, because I enjoy it, and when I design something, I make it because I want to. I never really design to a brief. I just do something I think is nice. So it's really lovely to know that other people think it's nice as well. Nice enough to want to invest that much time and energy into knitting it. Thank you so much. Now, moving on from that, I'm just going to go, then a couple more days in New York, flew home, done. Now, I've got a lot of stash enhancement. So I'm just going to crack straight on, and I'm going to try and do it chronologically as I picked it up. So the first stuff was back in San Francisco in Imagine It. I wanted to buy something that was local, either locally dyed, locally grown, whatever. And so I asked Whitney in the shop to show me what they had that was such, and she put me on to, the name of the company is Twirl. I think that's the name, Twirl Digital. So this is, it's a Shetland wool, mohair and 50% alpaca, blended and spun as 2-ply yarn. And this particular one comes from Shetland ewe called Iota, and this one is blended and spun as 2-ply yarn. Rudy and his pals combined to make this 2-toned yarn of wool, alpaca and mohair. Now Rudy is one of the alpacas. So it's dyed and it's farmed and milled, all pretty local to San Francisco, and I've never come across it before, but look at these beautiful colours. The light's kind of going, I'm in the glow of an orange glare over there, so it's not necessarily showing up particularly nicely. This is a really natural looking deep brown, and this orange is a little bit richer, a little bit rustier than you're seeing on screen, and it's really lovely. I have no idea what I'm going to do with this. I bought this because I wanted to own it. Can you see there's lovely sort of heathered tones in the orange, and the brown is a little bit more consistent, but it's got flecks of different fibre going through it. It's really, really nice. It's an interesting blend because it's got the Shetland, so it's got the crispness of Shetland, but it's also got the softness of alpaca, and you really feel both coming through. I mean, Ben can't touch it, clearly. Yeah, it's a little bit spiky, but it's also got the lovely drape, and because it's 2-ply, I think it's going to really, really drape very, very nicely. And what do you get for your buck? You get, saying here, free range, natural and humane. Quite right too. Oh, here we go. This is a 50-gram ball each, and approximate length is 175 yards. So whatever weight that makes it. I really like it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I suspect I might, it might not want to be round the neck. I don't think it's going to be a hat, because I get quite scratchy on my forehead. It's the only place really that I get a bit scratchy. But it could be some useful gloves, or it's really nice. It's really, really nice. I love the colours. I think they go so beautifully well together. It's the colours of my house, really. Look. Hidden entirely, can't see it. Stupid boy. So that was lovely. I also bought 2 skeins of Misty Alpaca. Now I know that's not local, and I know it's not something I can't get elsewhere, but Ben challenged me to, while I was on holiday, to have a road trip project. Something that I cast on in San Francisco with yarn that I had bought in San Francisco, and cast off in New York before flying home. So I thought it was going to have to be a hat. It was going to have to be chunky. I did all the driving. I had no time for knitting. So I didn't really plan it in advance. I just thought, well, what will I buy? I took some large needles with me just in case. And I bought, this is one I didn't use, but I bought 2. It's this stuff. This is so soft. It's ridiculous. This is the colour Sunset Ridge. It's 100 grams, 108 yards, 3.5 stitches per inch on US 10. Do you know what that is? Misty Alpaca, it's 100% baby alpaca. I love this stuff so much. I could fill a bath with this and just dive in naked and never want to leave. I love it. I absolutely love it. And the colours here, it looks kind of like greens and browns. So much more in it than that. There's sort of like reds and oranges and browns, yes, and olives and bluey greens and minty greens and yellows. There's a whole heap of colours in there, and it was lovely. Now I also bought, now the other one's not in the skein anymore, I also bought another colourway which I thought, well, I want to get, everyone knows I have a love of rainbow coloured yarn, right? I'm accruing quite a stash of it on its own. We all have our things. I was in San Francisco. I was on the Castro Street, just off it. Basically, I wanted something rainbowy. And this was pretty much what I was looking for. It's the same yarn, so it's the Misty Alpaca baby alpaca chunky stuff. So beautifully soft. Gorgeous amounts of colours. It's not rainbow coloured, it's multicoloured, but it kind of suggested rainbows to me. So I bought it, and that was the one. I was in the shop the day we had the meeting, so Bill was there, and Lexi, and Keegan, and Tom, and everyone else was there. And I said, we'll vote. This is what I need to do. Is it this one or this one? And they unanimously said this one, apart from Ben, who said that one. So Ben got completely overruled. And for those of you who are there, that's all that's left. I'll have to show you what I did with it when I get to the FOs section, because I achieved my challenge. That's not all. Tom, dear-hearted fellow that you are, gave me some yarn as a special present. I felt very special. Thank you, Tom. Oh, I loved it. This is the yarn he gave to me. It's a fingering weight yarn. It feels like quite a thick one, actually. It's quite a squishy one. It's 430 yards. It's about 400 metres, isn't it? It's Flying Goat Farm is the name of the company. And colourway red flannel. Suggested needle range 0 to 2. It just says wool nylon. It doesn't tell me what the actual blend is. I wonder if there's any information on the inside. There's not. So I don't know, I'm afraid. It feels like a superwash merino and nylon blend to me, but it feels quite squishy and bouncy. And it's not really black. It's a sort of very, very dark navy purple-ish, bordering on black. So from a distance, it kind of looks black. In some lights, a little bit brown, but it's you can see how it transitions from black to red really, really quickly. But there's also these paler, that looks pink on screen, it's not, it's just a pale, it's like the white showing through. And rich saturated red. It's lovely. It's really nice. It's gonna be socks. Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much. Lovely. So, moving on from San Francisco to Washington, DC. Now, I came away... Hi, I'm back on. I came away from Washington, DC with 4 new skeins of yarn from Loot Yarn Works. Not only did I have 4 new skeins of yarn, I also got a new bracelet. I know you've all seen these before. I've wanted one for ages. They are the leather... I'll talk about this one in a minute. The leather tape measure ones. I got the 16-inch because I have man wrists, and it's accurate, and you can measure with it, and I have done so. And I really liked the dark one. There were lighter ones where the numbers show up a little bit more clearly on them, but they didn't show up on my ever tanning skin. I've come back with, I can't really see it in this light, but I'm quite brown at the moment, and I didn't want one with the same colour as me. So I've been wearing that pretty much solidly ever since. And I like it. I like the look of it. I like the practicality of it. I like the convenience of the fact that I've always got a tape measure, because it's quite useful. You never know when you need to measure something in a hurry. Knitting wise, I mean. Get your minds out of the gutter, honestly. My other bracelet here is made from a stone called rhyolite, and I bought it in the ghost town in near Death Valley called Rhyolite. All of that will be explained in the holiday vid. I also have a new ring on my wedding ring. There's a new silver ring. Can you see? It's hard to focus. It's not going to focus, is it? Try and cover my face. It's covered in Native American symbols. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. You'll have to watch the other film. I've got time. Beautiful. Love it. Love it. Some of the symbols are to be found on my arm. That's why I liked it. But there's more to the story than that. So, the yarn that I bought and was given. Now, Ben and I had just come from the Library of Congress. It's a beautiful building, absolutely stunning. Largest library in the world, so that's why we wanted to tick the box and go and see it. But the Library of Congress has amazing designs in tiles, and you know what I'm like for tile patterns. Took a photograph of one because I loved it. I said to Ben, you know, that would make a lovely scarf, but I've done quite a few tiled floor scarves. It's a bit dull. And he said, what about putting it into a hat? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to show it to you, but I'm going to work it into a hat. I haven't yet decided whether it's going to be double knitted or stranded. I don't know. But with that, because that was fresh in our minds, I wanted to buy something for it. And these are not the colours represented in the pattern itself. Something's popped up on my screen. Sorry about that. I just wanted to get rid of it. It was annoying me. It wasn't going to go anywhere. Sometimes messages like a banner will come onto my phone. I film on my phone. Banner comes in, slides out. Some of them slide in and hang out there. No, hi, I'm not going anywhere. I know you've seen me, but get out. So I bought this. Now I think these go beautifully well together. This is a sort of a deep teal. Looks a little greyer than it is. A bit sort of more greeny in life. High sheen luxury, a classic, it says here, and this deep red is actually showing up. It's a little bit more magenta in colour. It's got more blue overtones than undertones than is showing up there. It is from what's the name of the company? Melange, made in Peru, and it is 100% baby alpaca. I was clearly on a baby alpaca kick this holiday. What's not to love? It's baby alpaca. This is beautiful. This is so lovely. It is 50 grams each, 110 yards, 100 meters, 5 to 6 stitches per inch on a 3.25 to 3.75. Suggested gauge only, they say, works beautifully with large or small needles. Of course it does. All yarn does. It depends on whether you like the fabric you're getting or not. Stupid thing to say. It's a sport weight, apparently, and I can't wait. It's going to be a very quick project. I'm really, really looking forward to it. So that's that. Going about my usual, when I'm travelling, I want to get something local. I asked the ladies in the shop if they could find something local for me, and they have 2 companies they recommended. One of them is Wandering Wool, unique hand-dyed yarns. So it's a fairly standard base. I mean, I say fairly standard, it's fairly standard MCN base. So it's 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon, 400 yards, 200 grams. So it's really lovely. It's a good sock weight yarn, and it's going to be a good workhorse sock yarn, but softer because of the cashmere. And I just fell in love with the colours. Isn't that gorgeous? It's not all greens. You see, this is a very sort of delicate dove grey going through it that sort of darkens a little bit down here, and then the tonal qualities of these greens as they fade in and out. It's gorgeous, and I love it. I mean, the thing is, I'm rattling through this. I can't dwell on each one the way I normally would, but this is gorgeous. And yeah, a little bit of cashmere. Why not, eh? Help yourself. Have some cashmere. No, it's all mine. You can't have it. Then, so here's the thing. Sammy Susie, who I met in Washington DC in Looped Yarn Works, she was buying some yarn. She'd come in and wanted to buy some stuff. Of course she did. They were looking at some things. There was this dragonfly. Is it called dragonfly? Yeah, dragonfly fibres. And they had a cubby hole, and then the Wandering Wool. They happened to be the 2 companies that were I was told were local, and Ben and I had already gone. There's a beautiful one in there. It's gorgeous. And then either Sammy, or I think it might have been her daughter Sydney, went over and picked up. It happened to be the one I'd been looking at earlier, and said, "Oh, Mum, I really like this," or "Daughter, I really like this." Whichever way around it was, I forget. Anyway, they picked out the one I happened to have been looking at, and I said, "Oh yeah," I said, "that one caught my eye as well." Nothing more was said. Sammy and I parted, said goodbye. She went off. We were going to leave. Ben had noticed this. He told me afterwards that she'd picked up 2 skeins of that particular colourway and disappeared off to the till, and then came back and presented me with one as a thank you for this, the podcast. I mean, Sammy, unnecessary, lovely, but unnecessary. I just sit and burble at my phone for a couple of hours. I'm so glad it means something to you, because that in turn means masses to me. And this is the yarn. Such rich, opulent colours. This ultraviolet purple is outrageous. this sort of dirty gold is really beautiful, and where it gets even smuttier here is it's filthy. This yarn's filthy, it's absolute filth. And then you've got areas of the purple that have allowed the natural colours to show through, and the black to really set it off. Oh, it's gorgeous. Oh, it's so lovely. So this is their damsel base, which is 100% superwash merino. It's really squidgy though, it's got quite a good bounce to it. And it's 335 yards in a 4 ounce skein. I don't know what 4 ounces is, I'm afraid. I have no idea what weight that makes this yarn. It might be a sport, it might be a thick fingering weight. I don't know. Don't know what 4 ounces is. We don't do that. But Dragonfly Fibres, there we are, the colours of happiness. And this colourway is called Nevermore. Quote the Raven. You know. Poe. You know. Sammy, thank you. Thank you so much. Totally unnecessary, totally unexpected, and really special. Thank you. Not only that, she also bought this little badge for me, which I haven't yet put onto a project badge, which I'm going to do, and it's a little ball of yarn, cityscape, and it says DC's LYS, which is a Loop Yarn Works badge of honour, really. Thank you. So then we move on, and there's still more stash enhancement to go. Then we go to Knitty City. Now, in Knitty City, this is one in New York. I have bought stuff from there before, and it was such a wildly successful thing. I think the girls in the shop, Pearl and Nancy and the others, were just enjoying the fact that there were lots of people there, and I'm hoping that they all bought lots of stuff, because if I was able to help bring people in that may not have come otherwise that day, great. And at the end of it, Pearl said, oh, before you go, she said, there's something I want to give you. I said, oh, really? She said, yes, we've got one of our dyers has asked if I can get you to choose one of her skeins of yarn, whichever one you like to take away. I was like, goodness me, someone I haven't even met. That's incredibly generous. So after we'd said goodbye to everybody else and they'd all gone, Pearl was showing me around, and here it is. So this is Round Mountain Fibres, inspired by nature. This colourway is called Jack in the Pulpit, and it's 100% superwash merino, and this is the Botany collection. It's a fingering weight, 100 grams, approximately 400 yards per skein. It's quite a big bouncy one, and it's hand dyed in Vermont, so it's kind of local-ish to New York City, but just a little bit further up. Now, I'm afraid I never got to know the lady's name who is responsible for Round Mountain Fibres. So whoever you are, thank you so much. Now, I was hemming and hawing. My eye immediately went to this skein of yarn, but was also drawn to a second one, and I picked them both up. And I said to Pearl, I was going to ask her advice. I said, it's either this one or this one. She said, have both. I said, no, I couldn't possibly. She said, no, have both. Have both, honestly. Pearl, you're naughty. The kind of naughty I quite like. I just want to put this out there. I'm not in this for the gifts. I'm really, really not. And it's always slightly embarrassing when there's gifts in abundance, because I don't feel worthy. I know, however, that in each individual case they are very sincerely given, and I'm eternally grateful, and I never underestimate that. So when they start to mount up, I feel a bit overwhelmed, but I know that, as I say, individually each one is meant with a lot of love, and that is very special to me. Here they are. So thank you, nice lady from Round Mountain Fibres, and thank you, nice lady Pearl Chin from, isn't it just great? You work at a yarn shop and your name is Pearl. Brilliant. Here they are. This was the first one. It's just mottily, lovely, natural looking goodness. I guess, I don't know what Jack in the Pulpit. I've got a feeling I might know what it is. I think we might call it I can't remember what, Lords and Ladies, I think, in England. It may be the same thing, I'll check into that. But it's beautiful. It's got these greens and browns and reds and creams and yellows, and the colours all run into each other. It's not speckled, but it's almost got that effect. There's a lot of mottling going. It's mottled, not speckled, mottled. It's really nice. It's muted, sombre, rich at the same time, without being gaudy. It's the kind of colourway that it knows what it's doing. It doesn't need to yell. It's right up my alley. I mean, what's not? Love it. The second one, very beautiful in very different ways. Look at this. It's lots of sea greens and teals and light coloured blues, but flecked through with these pinks and purples, which really lift. So if it were all the blues, it would be kind of like almost like just a heathered or tonal. There it is, shades of one colour. But the pink blobs, they're just going to pop through every now and then and just really give a little hint of something else. So this is called Succulents. Now, not E-N-C-E-N-T-S, as in many plants that are succulent are succulents. And it's the fingering weight, 100 grams for 400 yards. It's the same base, 100% superwash merino. And it's gorgeous and beautiful, and together, they're that. So I said, slightly embarrassed that I'd been given 2 rather than just 1, because I genuinely wasn't angling for that. I said to Paul, listen, I need to buy something from you. I planned to come here and do some damage, so what else do you have that's local? Because I already ticked this box. And she mentioned one other which I can't remember. She said, we also have Nooch. I said, oh, I love Nooch. Last time I was here, I bought some Nooch Fibres yarn, and it was gorgeous. So I said, show me where your Nooch is, because I like Nooch work a lot. So I said, oh, that one. I said, it's going to be that one. She said, take it. I said, what? I said, honestly, no, really, please let me pay for one of these 3. She said, no, absolutely not. We're delighted to have you. And she wouldn't hear of it. I tried desperately hard to pay for this skein of yarn, and it came as another gift. I know it's becoming a bit of a problem. I am going to Rainbow Yarn Anonymous. This is so beautiful. It doesn't really do it justice on screen. Actually, these colours seem to glow from within. There's particularly these. That's a much more orangey gold than is showing up there. It looks kind of greeny gold there, but it's not. It's a real rich orange, rusty gold. And one of the colours, this here as well, this teal on the top. They seem to have an inner fire to them. Then we've got this dark red shot through with black textures, and there's this navy blue and sea green over here, and the gold again. It's going to go into a collection of other rainbow yarns that I've got. They're all different. No 2 of my rainbow yarns have the same atmosphere to them. So let me tell you a bit about Nooch Fibre. This is her Central Park fingering range. It's 100% superwash merino again, and it's 400 yards. And this colourway is called Unresolved. So many things in life are unresolved, aren't they? I think that's the natural order of things. It's gorgeous. I can't tell you how much I love it. So that was my yarn from Knitted City. Didn't stop there. I was given a couple of gifts as well. One of which I can't show you because I've eaten it. Hello, Dina. Dina gave me some chocolate. Trough that on the plane. Lovely. I remember the maple chocolate and some coffee chocolate as well. The maple was particularly yummy. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I was also greeted by a very, very, very nice young lady called Emily Peterson, who has just started her own podcast. It's the String Theory Knitting Podcast. I've only been home a few days, haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but I certainly will be swinging by. And she's Emily Alice on Instagram, and she made me a little bag. Very cute, boxy, square, intended to be a bag, I put a whip in. I put a sock whip in it. It's a little bit small for that. I did think it perhaps would work because it fits in there, but it's actually hard to knit from it because I'm using a Zauber ball, which is wound as a ball, not a cake, and it needs to be able to spin freely, and it can't do that in here. But it fits in with the knitting as well. So for travelling with a project, it's a nice small size with that. But she intended it to be a notions pouch anyway, and I may switch it over to that, or just keep it for things I want to carry about, but not necessarily knit from, if that makes sense. It's this lovely sort of tweed with diagonal quilting on it. It's like really coarse woolly. It's like the sort of stuff that you'd get a tweed jacket made out of. And inside, it's very nice Liberty-esque print. I don't know if it's a Liberty print itself. It may be. I don't know enough about that. Lovely. And a hand strap. And nicely, although I won't be knitting from it, the zip does up towards the hand strap, so it's hanging from your wrist. You could knit out of the top. If the zip's on the other way, then it's open at the bottom when you want to knit from it, and things can fall out. Excuse me. So that's brilliant and really thoughtful, and thank you for that. There was one more thing. I don't quite know what to say about this. I felt bad initially. Well, there were lots of people there, and we were all chatting sort of across the table and stuff, but there was some people that I spent more time talking to than others. In a group, some people are more forward than others, and that's just the natural way of things. There was a couple of people I didn't really get a great deal of interaction with. And somebody I hadn't talked to a great deal came up to me and said, "I'm really sorry, I have to go now." I said, "Oh my goodness, you can't go here, we haven't had a chat. Sit down, tell me all about you." She said, "I love knitting, I love dogs." Brilliant, perfect, I know everything there is to know. This person was Amy. I don't know your last name, Amy, I just know you as Amy. But you are Orange Racer 01 on Ravelry. Now, I'm going to read you the note that she put in with the gift because it's quite sweet. "Nathan, just a quick note to let you know how much I enjoy your podcast. I love how you're able to create the atmosphere of a local meetup, and yet we are all scattered globally." Well, that's exactly what I love about my group. You, my OSATers. I love it. We are all over the world, and yet we feel a real kinship together, and I really love that. So if I'm helping to engender that, then I'm very, very happy. I can also say you inspire me to think about knitting in new ways and try new things. Yes! Job done. That's exactly what I want to do. Best wishes, your fellow OSATer, Amy. Now, when she pulled this, it was all wrapped up. So as I unwrapped it, it was kind of obscured by the tissue paper. People on the other side of me saw what it was before I did, and there were gasps. Actual gasps. This is a project bag. This is a project bag that she had knitted herself. Sewn herself. I think all I can do is show it to you. Does anyone recognise this? Genuinely, words fail. This hand-stitched embroidery all over the bag is my tattoos. I know, right? Absolutely an astonishing amount of work has gone into this. Not just in the embroidery itself, but in the planning and the research. She freely admits there are not all 74 on there because I haven't talked about all 74 yet. People don't know what else is there. But she's gone, I don't know whether she's just gone back to all the back issues and noted down what my tattoos are. But they're all on, it's extraordinary. And of course, sewn in blue and purple and green, just like my tattoos. All on a black background, but of course the overall effect is my own personal colourway. Not only that, you turn to the inside and the lining fabric she's managed to find is purple, greens and blues. Amazing. I said, have you put them all in the right colours? I mean, the right colour way, but individually. She said, oh, no. I said, then it's kind of freaky that so many of them are right. We have the adinkra there, which is purple. There it is. We have the heptagram, which is green. There it is. We have the web of weird, which is purple. There it is. We have Fawr Hodi, which is there, and it's blue, and it's there, and it's blue. We have the Helm of Ore there, which is green, and there it is. And the list goes on. She's got so many of them right, and she says that's pure chance. Freaky. I mean, I'm looking at more of them now. There's so many of them. Look, even down to my N-A-T-H. Where's the A? T-H-A. And N, representing the thought, the care. Apparently, that was the most fun to do. I'm not surprised. It's a brilliant, brilliant representation of the real thing. It's almost exactly the same size as well. That's only just occurred to me. Look at that. Amazing. Oh my word. Hang on, let me just sort of... I can't do that. I can't touch the screen when it's on. So beautiful. Okay, so that notwithstanding, that's what got the gasps. People recognised what it was before I'd even seen it. That's green. Gazing. Oh, mine's green. Millions of them. Then I looked at the construction of it, and so much thought and care has gone into this. The style of bag that she's chosen has been brilliantly chosen for me. I'm a double knitter, as everyone knows, and y'all know that. And this bag has two separate compartments, 1 and 2, so I can separate it. I can separate my two yarns, and what separates them is a zip-up pouch, which is sewn in it across the middle. So I can put all kinds. It's quite a big one, so all kinds of stuff in there to go with the pattern I'm making, and have my yarns separate, so they're not going to get all tangled. Not only that, but on the sides here, and one on the corresponding opposite side, this black tab is a little poppered yarn guide, so that I can from the ball that's resting in the bottom, I can put the yarn up through there, so one piece of yarn will come up one side of the bag, and the other will come up from the other side, again, to keep them separate. And it's drawstring, and it's capacious, and it is a true work of art. Amy, I don't know if you fully got from me quite how special this is to me. I was a little bit overwhelmed. I was a little bit moved. I say a little bit, it was more than a little bit moved. It's stunning. It's so unique and so personal. This is one hell of a special bag. Thank you so much. I'm nearly there with the stash enhancement. That was going to be it. That is all I brought back with me. Today, a little parcel arrived on my doorstep. The little parcel was from my very good friend Lorena, Miss Rena. Many of you will know Lorena's work from my Pride rainbow socks that she dyed a self-striping yarn for me in the colours of the Pride rainbow flag, which I have loved and I wear a lot. And your colours are very very wash safe. I sometimes get a green bit on my foot, but it's not fading at all. So she sent this to me as a belated birthday present. She apologised for it not being here on time for my birthday. Lorena, you've just been going through enormous amounts of upheaval in your life. I'm not going to go into it here because it's not my place to, but you're a special lady to even be thinking about somebody else at all when you've been doing what you've been doing. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of your attitude, your mental outlook, your positivity. You are quite simply an amazing human being. And then I get this. So following on the theme, I love this, I really love this. Following on the theme from my Rainbow Pride socks to create the rainbow flag, she has custom dyed. Now, if I show you the skein, you'll love it anyway. There are gay men all over the world going, I know what that is! There may be a few straight women doing the same, but I shouldn't think as many. Does that help? This is the Bear Pride flag for the sub-community of the gay community who identify as loving bears. Big hairy men. Manly hairy men. I'm a big fan of the Bear Pride flag, but this is brilliant. It's got 7 stripes in it. It's a brown, a tan, a yellow, a cream, a white, a grey, and a black. And I can't. I should have done the research. I can't. They're all supposed to signify different things. I can't remember, but it's also got the bear paw on it. This is brilliant. Now, Lorena's process for dyeing self-striping is so labour-intensive. I do not underestimate or underappreciate how much work by you has gone into this for me. It's very, very special. And it's a 4-ply fingering weight, superwash Blueface Leicester, and she said she did that because she knows I love Blueface Leicester, which I do. It's a great sock yarn. It's about 400 metres. I'm going to get the best pair of socks out of this. And I'm going to do something a little bit special with them as well. Once they're knitted and I've got the stripes, I'm going to duplicate stitch the little bear paw on the ankle of each one. I'm going to have proper Bear Pride flag socks, and they're going to be fabulous. Do you know, I've looked into in the past trying to find either a colourway that has the Bear Pride colours in it, or getting a selection of exactly the right colours to put together into a non-self-striping but a striped pair of socks. Now I don't need to. It's amazing. So have a little closer look. You see all those colours in there. They all work. You know, whoever designed the Bear Pride flag probably wasn't thinking about it in terms of a colourway for knitters. I can only imagine that was the furthest thing away from their mind. However, aesthetically, they all go together so blooming well. It's like the dream colourway, really. It's like, oh, I don't know, it's gorgeous. So, Lorena, you've done it again. You've surpassed yourself and made me so very grateful. I feel honoured, absolutely honoured to be the recipient of your lovely, lovely fine yarn. Special thing from a special lady. I'm the luckiest person in the world. Genuinely, right now, I'm the luckiest person in the world. I get to live my life singing and knitting, 2 things I love doing, and I'm surrounded by people like all of you out there, whether I've met you in person or not, the kind of people who are just so generous of spirit. What can I say? Thank you, each and every one of you. Thank you particularly to everyone who's contributed to the stash enhancement today. Right, this is going to be really long, so crack it on. I said there's a new whip. Let's talk about that straight away. It's a sock. It's a Zauber ball. I don't have the particular ball band, can't give you any colourways. It's a crazy Zauber ball, we all know what it is. And it's knitting up very nicely. I started this while I was over there, and I got some done on the plane and at the airport. It's going to be a very, very plain vanilla sock. Ain't nothing to say, really. This is a workhorse sock. I'm doing it quite long in the leg because I know there's generous yardage in a Zauber ball. I like the way, because it's so barber poled. The yarn is so barber poled, but it just doesn't knit like that. You don't really see that. You just get these sort of merging flecks of colour. It's really lovely. So yeah, it's going to be quite a long sock because I like a long sock and want to get the most out of the yarn. And it's 2.5 mil, just like my last pair of socks, which I'll show in a minute because they're an FO. And a 64 stitch sock. It's huge. I mean, I'm wearing hand knits now. But I'm going to put on what I've got of it so far. My cast on's a bit tight. It's on. But here we are. So that's only 64 stitches. Goes around quite a lot of my leg, very, very happily. And I'm in my army mode today. And I'm astonished really the difference it makes. I'm burbling. I normally do a 72 stitch sock on a 2.25mm needle. But there's plenty of give in this. I don't think I will do this by default. I think I prefer the density of stitches in a higher stitch count sock on smaller needles. And the only reason I did because all of my needles happen to be in use when I cast on the other socks. By the time I had finished those other socks on these needles, I had bought several more pairs of 2.25, so I would never run out, but didn't take them away with me. So I wanted to cast on a sock, and this was, again, the only needle I had to hand. So it had to be. So that's that. Done. Tick. Done. Finished. Talking of finished objects, I've got two for you. So these are the socks you have seen before. Here they are, the Elise Crazy Turkish Yarn. These socks are pretty big in terms of length. I've deliberately gone for a very long sock, but they're actually sort of inches. They kind of ruffle down quite nicely. I like the idea of wearing them like that and have done so. It's a really great, fun fit, actually, these socks. It's a really bouncy, stretchy yarn. It feels like it's got a lot more give to it than your standard sock. Now, these were knitted toe up. So I did my calculations, measured the weight of the yarn, measured the weight of the needles, thinking to myself, well, I'll get to this point, and then I'll bind off, and then I'll have used up all the yarn. Well, I don't know what happened. I've still got this much left. So much for the matician part of my name. But, as luck would have it, I didn't do any yarn management here. They started off in very nearly the same place. See, one's got a bit of red on the toe, one hasn't. But they're pretty much matching kind of all the way up. Can you see that? Until you get to the very top, where this one just continues on a little bit further. Yeah, so they don't, but it wasn't important, and it wouldn't matter to me if they didn't match at all, but they're really nice. They're comfy, they feel a bit spongy. It's a very interesting texture, this yarn. As I've said before, I think it's the kind of yarn that would survive a nuclear holocaust. It and cockroaches will be the only thing left. I think they're going to go on forever. But they're great. And again, so much give in them for... I'm wondering if actually, because even though there's fewer stitches, because it's a bigger needle, the stitches of course are bigger, there's going to be so much more yarn in them, so the fabric feels like it's got more stretch than a denser stitch count. I'm sure that's just maths. So that's those. Basically it's the same. This new one it's going to be the same sock, just worked from the cuff down. Now I'm sorry about the flaring of my mantelpiece. I am losing the light, so I've got the big light on and it's reflecting on there. Nothing I can do about that. And I've got one more FO to show you. The next FO was my road trip hat. So this was Ben's challenge. I haven't yet woven in the ends, so there's one on the inside and there's one at the top. There's one on the brim. So I did cast this on in San Francisco. I will wear it at the risk of flattening down my hair, but it's not going to be for me. People are absolutely okay. I'm okay with people disagreeing with me on this. I think, when I'm designing something, I never ever think in terms of gender. I think about something nice to make, and I'll wear everything I've ever made. I don't think I'll wear this. This is the first thing I've ever made that I think is feminine, but it was accidentally so perhaps it's not. I did try it on my friend at a knit night last night, and she's a girl, and it looked great on her. I think it looks a bit silly on me. I think she had long hair and that works, and I don't, clearly. So anyway, it's knitted from the, where's the rest of all? This stuff, the baby alpaca, from Misty Alpaca. And it's a lacy hat. Of course, anyway, here it is. This is clearly the wrong yarn for it. I love the colours, I love the way it's knitted up, but I think for the pattern to make sense, it needs to be a more solid colour. But this is basically what's going on. It's got a ribbed brim, no turn up intended. It's got this sort of this lace texture through the most of it, which forms. You see, there's a spine here, and all of these diagonal lines go inwards towards it, and that's repeated on the other side there. But here at the corner, of the other side, it's actually got these huge leaves. So these diamond effects here. So we've got the decreases going up the middle of the stalk of the leaf there, and it gets wider there, wider and wider and wider, and then it comes in on itself here. And the diagonal lines, which are all at that point going into the centre, well, that spine, they then, as the leaf starts to decrease, they follow it and track it all the way up. So that leaf decrease is also taking the place of some of the crown decreases. Working it out, how to get the effect that I had in my head, was a proper bugger, if you'll pardon. But the effect is really rather lovely. So that's what it looks like from the top. There's the crown there in the centre, the two leaves pointing at each other. You can see all the diagonals all... Anyway, let's put it on. Don't laugh. It wasn't really meant for me. Shall I wear it with a leaf at the front? Yeah, wear it with a leaf at the front. So here it is. It's a head-shaped hat. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't think it suits my head shape. That's all it is. So if I had hair coming out here, gorgeous. So I think it's very much for girls. But you can see very much the structured lines of it all sort of swirling together. And there's the crown. I'm really pleased with it as a design. I think it'll make a lovely gift for somebody else. Excuse me. And if I were to wear it another way round with the sort of spine to the front, it looks like that. And with a leaf over each ear. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I think I like it a bit better. It's really warm. It's not for this kind of time of year, but it was a really slow piece of knitting for me because A, I didn't have much time, B, I was having to work it out as I went along, and some of the maths was a little bit tricksy. It was like, because I wanted to keep that shape, this inward shape, coming all the way up to the centre point, and I wanted these lines to wrap the way they do around it. Excuse me, and I assumed, therefore, that this, being a line of SSKs heading off in that direction, when they changed direction that way, would need to become knit two togethers. It turned out that didn't work. It's just not the case at all. So even though they're sloping that way, they're still SSKs. Still haven't quite got my head around why that's the case, but it was a real light bulb moment, and I was very glad I discovered it because I was tearing my hair out. Look, there's nothing left apart from this little bit here in the middle. So that was slow, and I had a few false starts with that. But once I realised what was happening, it was quite easy to do. But because I was on the go, I wasn't at my computer, I didn't have my computer, I was having to write down everything I did as I did it. I've got these scrawling notes that I'm really hoping, proper scribbles, I'm really hoping I can make head or tail of when I come back to it, because I had to remember what I was doing. There's no way I'd remember this if I just tried to reverse engineer it. So it's a really lovely hat. At the moment it doesn't have a name. I'm thinking it might end up just being simply called Road Trip, although I suspect that's the kind of name which is probably already in use on Ravelry. My other option for it is to call it Dragged Across America, which I rather like. I suspect no one would have called their hat that on Ravelry yet. Don't rush out and do that if you've just heard me do it. If you've heard me say that, that'd be really mean. So we'll see. I'll do some research into that, and I'll get this written up as quickly as I can. I'm going to re-knit it out of some... I've got the perfect yarn here. Same problem. So I would like to see it in much more solid colour. I mean, you can certainly see what's going on, but I don't think you get the full effect of it. And it's quite an intricate pattern visually, although it's a doddle to knit, as I said. Difficult for me to work it out, but a doddle to actually do it. You'll do this in a couple of afternoons. Chunky, see, it goes really quickly. And that, ladies and gentlemen, pause for breath. I've been talking so quickly, trying to get it all in. That is the end of this episode. So head over to YouTube in a few days and see my road trip video. I'll keep it as brief as I can, but it may end up being quite long. There's so much to show you, and there's so many things I wouldn't want you not to see, just for the sake of brevity. So I'm going to let it be what it needs to be. And until then, and until next time, I'm teaching tomorrow, by the way. I'm teaching tomorrow at Per Lessons. It's going to be lovely. 2 classes down there. There'll be another 20-odd knitters, double knitters in the world by the end of the day. Makes me happy. So until then, until I see you again, while this podcast episode really is a finished object, just remember, life is a work in progress. Just take it one stitch, one step, 1 mile, one total eclipse at a time. Bye-bye.